Good afternoon, everybody. This is David Stearns with Haley Marketing, and today's Lunch with Haley webinar is going to get kicked off in just about 1 minute. So for those who have arrived early, and while you're waiting, we're going to actually go beyond our title slide, and we're going to go to the next one. So get your cameras out or your keyboard fingers and take advantage of our September event. In addition to what we're doing today, Lunch with Haley, we're actually going to be spending a full day doing our annual Smart Ideas Summit. This is our 4th year for this. It's a 7-hour long, all day, except for lunchtime Eastern. Online event. We have 14 different speed talks, new presentation every 30 minutes. Just an incredible lineup this year, including for the first time ever, we're doing panel discussions with both a group of staffing company owners and a second group of recruiting firm owners. So use that QR code or just type in haleymarketing.com/smartideas and you can grab your seat for next month. Just so everyone knows, by signing up, you get first access to all the recordings. Also, the link you will get will be valid all day long. So if you're not able to join us for all 7 hours, and we understand, everything will be recorded. All right, Rachel, with that little preamble over with, let's move forward. It's time to kick off today's Lunch with Haley webinar. All right, so I'm really excited about today's talk because it's a topic that I love learning more about. I know a little bit about it, but we've brought on our resident expert, Rachel Reed, to help teach everybody about how you can use automation to crush your revenue goals. Because we know it's a tough year for selling. A lot of employers are using less staffing services. In some industries, we're seeing a dramatic decline in demand for temporary help, and our friends on the executive recruiting side are starting to feel it as well with the general slowdown. So that means we have to get more aggressive, we have to get smarter, we have to get more efficient ways to prospect. And I know a lot of people are probably being told, pick up the phone and make more calls. Yeah, doing more selling is absolutely part of it, but there are, today's world, some better ways that you can drive sales leads. And we're going to talk about how you can use automation to do that. So to kick things off, I'm going to introduce a concept called a marketing funnel or a sales funnel. And the idea is what you're trying to do is build a pipeline of future clients by looking at the process by which a prospect becomes a client. So a marketing funnel is really pretty simple. By definition, it's an overview of the client's journey, how they go about first hearing about your staffing company, first discovering you, whether it's because you made a cold call or they found you on social media or through search engine optimization or local advertising, or just your involvement in the community. They first discover your staffing company, and then they gain an interest in what you do. And then they become convinced that you're a partner that they can trust, and then they give you an opportunity to do business with them. That's the buyer's journey. What we're trying to do is map that process out and thinking about what we do at each stage to get more people to convert. So if you picture in your mind the shape of a funnel, there you go. You don't have to do it in your mind. My hands can do it. If it's very wide, there's a lot of names at the top, but not a lot making it to the bottom to where they become clients. And what we're trying to do with sales funnels or marketing funnels is change the shape of that. So we're not trying to reduce what's going in the top. In fact, we're trying to increase it, but we're trying to make more people come through at the bottom. And when we think about funnels, there's 3 stages. Top of the funnel is where you're creating awareness. It's the typical marketing activities where you're not selling very hard, but you're helping people understand the value you can provide. You're showing that you know how to solve the problems that they're experiencing, whether those are staffing problems or they're business problems that your clients and prospects are dealing with every day. Now, if we're effective at the top of the funnel, we can pull more people into the middle of the funnel where they're starting to learn about your solutions. They're starting to understand what you can do for them and how to use staffing more strategically as a tool to generate the business results they need. And maybe the business results are just a more reliable workforce, or reducing time to hire, or reducing the cost of labor as a percentage of the work that gets completed or the widgets that go out the door. And then at the bottom of the funnel, this is where your sales team's doing their magic. This is where you are helping clients understand not just why to use staffing to solve their problems, but specifically why they should work with you. This is where you're creating differentiation. This is where you're showing your value proposition. This is where you're building relationships so that the people you're selling to have a desire to actually work with your staffing company. So there is a big difference between a marketing funnel and a sales pipeline. So in marketing, the top stage is that awareness, just getting into someone's mind so they're thinking about you, getting their eyeballs to see your name, but also getting certain associations to go with your brand so that you're not just another staffing company, but you're an organization that knows how to do things that that company needs, solve problems, how to provide staffing services in a different way, how to help a business be more productive and deal with their challenges. And what the interest stage is where you get the prospect to want to use your services as a solution to a problem. So staffing can be used in a lot of ways. It can be used to manage cost. It can be used to enhance productivity. It can be used to reduce business risk or reduce employment risk. And if you start looking at all of the different values of staffing, at this stage of interest, you're starting to think about, well, what is it that my ideal prospects need? Is it speed? Is it quality? Is it more reliable partner? Is it better reporting? What is it that they need, not just related to staffing, but what is it that they need in their company to be successful in doing what they do? The next stage is evaluation. This is where your prospect is starting to look at the solutions you can offer and determine, does this solution really fit my business need? The way you're customizing your staffing services, is it different than what they're getting from their current vendors? Is it going to be easier to work with you? Are you going to be able to accelerate delivery? Are you going to be able to work with your clients through the systems they want you to use and provide reporting the way they want it provided? This is where they're evaluating your capabilities. Then it's time for the client to make a decision. And in marketing, we're helping to do things to show people you're a very trustworthy organization. You're someone they should want to do business with. You're someone with a proven track record, so that ultimately they purchase, they place the job order with you, and you get an opportunity to fill it. Now, in sales, we don't even usually have a green phase. I mean, there can be that cold prospecting, but when you're picking up the phone making cold calls, really you're starting at the middle of the funnel. You're not starting just to get people to find your business, to create that awareness. You're starting with, how do I generate interest? How do I go from call to the person who wants to talk to me? What do I say on that call? Then how do I qualify that person so that, if we're going to continue the conversation, I'm using my time efficiently as a sales professional and I'm not wasting mine or the client's time. Then we get into the red, where we say, okay, now it's time to get a proposal out there. We have to figure out what to offer to win this business. We have to negotiate the deal, because invariably your clients are going to want to try to beat you up on bill rates or beat you up on your markups. And we got to figure out how to protect those margins by focusing on the value you can provide and your approach to services. So it's not about price, it's about value. And salespeople close the deal. So you can see in the sales pipeline, sales is actually doing everything in the blue and the red, playing a much larger role. Whereas in marketing, it's supporting everything in the sales pipeline. It's pulling people in at the awareness stage. It's giving the salespeople more to talk about in the interest stage. It's helping the client compare you favorably to the competition in the evaluation stage. It's using testimonials and case studies and social proof and reviews, so that when people are checking you out to make a decision, they like your company. And even in the purchase stage, there are ways marketing can support sales so that you're making it easier for prospects to buy. All right, now in staffing, that funnel can get even more complicated. So yeah, we have awareness and interest and evaluation. The top is the same and decision. Now we have to get on the approved vendor list. They'll sign the agreement that gives us the opportunity to do business with the staffing company. They're going to sign some form of service agreement. Then we got to get them to place that first order because, as you know, just because we get them to sign the service order doesn't mean we're getting job orders. So we have to keep selling and keep marketing and look for ways to build relationships with multiple decision makers, if we can, inside that client organization till we get the first order. And then, of course, our service team has to knock it out of the park so we get repeat business. So how do we fill the order the way the client wants it filled? Is the service delivery the way we want it done? Are we using tools like automation to create a great client experience? And then can we get to the point where we're the preferred vendor? You guys know most of the people that you're selling to, most of your clients, they don't have one staffing vendor. They have multiples. But if they have 5 vendors, how do you get more than 20% of the business? How do you get more than your fair share? You want to be the first call. You want to be the preferred vendor because of the way you work with that company. And sales and marketing and customer service all work together at this level to create buyer preference. And then ideally, you get to the point where you have a strategic relationship. You're a part of their workforce planning process. You're there talking to decision makers, helping them plan ahead. You're helping them determine the kinds of people they're going to need, the skills they're going to need, when they're going to need them. You may be proactively recruiting for roles they're going to need because you are a true partner in their success. And so this is a very complicated funnel. It's not just marketing, but here it's marketing and sales and recruiters or account management all working together to get to that level from awareness down to strategic relationship. Okay. Why do we need marketing funnels? So before we turn it over to Rachel to get into the logistics of how we do all this stuff, one of the really important reasons, especially in a market like this, that we need to be thinking about building funnels is only about 3% of the people you're calling on, and right now, maybe even less than that, are interested in a new staffing supplier. They're already in the red zone. They're looking for vendors. They want to talk to your salespeople, but it's about 3%. In fact, I'm actually working on this week's Smart Ideas Weekly newsletter. Comes out Saturday mornings. If you don't get it already, please subscribe. So the one I'm working on, there was a study done by a company called Cognism that looked at cold calls. And what they discovered is that about 2%, not 3, 2% of cold calls even result in generating a warm lead. So 2 out of 100. And that it takes 8 contacts with a warm lead till that person has any sort of interest in doing business with you. And then it takes, and I forgot the exact percentage, but only about 20% of those warm leads will close. And I, for this week's newsletter, was doing the math, and it works out that to get one new client, based on the research done, and this was 2024 B2B research, it takes 290 outbound calls to generate one client. And that's because such a small percentage are people who are buying right now. So there are some other people that are open to buying. They're more in the blue phase. They're not really sales ready yet, but we need to create interest. We need to give them a reason to look for a new staffing partner. And then there's a couple of big chunks here who are not thinking about buying. And even if you ask them, like, they really don't think they're interested at all in buying. And then there's a last phase of people that, no matter what you do, they're definitely not interested. You could be giving away your services free. They're not changing vendors. But it's that blue and the green. That's the sweet spot for sales funnel, marketing funnel automation. That's what we're really talking about today. The 6 to 7%, they're close to being ready for sales. They just need a good nudge as to why they should look now. But that middle 60% of the market, they're not ready to buy. They're not ready for your sales team. They're not sales qualified leads, but they're people that will become sales qualified leads sometime in the next 1 month to 3 years. They're the people you need to start to build relationships with. You need to nurture. You need to demonstrate your value. They're the people that if you can start to open the lines of communication and show that, hey, we're not just like your current staffing vendors. They're the ones who are going to be interested in talking to you when they move up to the blue. And when they move up to the red, they'll be the ones that are going to see you as their first choice. You will be top of mind. You will already be the preferred vendor if you're working the sales funnel when they're down in that 60% in the green. All right, Rachel, it's time for you to take over and show us how do you really do all this stuff.
Yeah, thanks, David. I think the main point to think about when you're looking at your marketing funnel or your sales funnel is that sales funnels aren't meant to replace your sales team. Your sales team is working on that top of the pyramid, whereas sales funnels help bring those people up to the top of the pyramid. People that you might not know could be in market in the future to buy, people that are on your list, but your salespeople just don't have time to follow up with. Sales funnels really work in that space because it helps position you as the right solution when they are at that top 3% ready to buy. So when you're thinking about creating your funnels, we have a couple steps. The first step in creating your marketing funnel is to think about your target audience or your ideal client. What do they look like? Who are they? Who do you sell most to and who do you work best with? Kind of defining who is in that audience bucket. The second step, once you have that audience defined, is target potential buyers using that ideal client profile. What do these people, what industry are they in? Where are they located? What is their company size? This will help you kind of expand your reach, but also make sure that your messaging is segmented enough to have very specific targeted messaging for your potential clients. And the third step is to map your buying process and create content that fits in each stage of that buying process. So how many touch points does it typically take? What kind of things are resonating most with your audience? And the really important piece of the sales funnel is to create educational content for each stage in your buying process that helps these people realize that you are the solution for their problems. You know their problems, you know who they are, and you are providing the education that they need to help them make a decision. The next step is to build flows for nurture. So if you have these people, they're not ready to talk to sales yet, they're not ready for the sales pitch, but you can put these people through email nurture flows and kind of drip that content to these people. So you're constantly in front of them. They're constantly thinking about you. They're constantly reading your educational content. They're constantly educated on the solutions that you can provide. The fifth step is to track sales engagements. I think this is a really important piece of the sales funnel. Is you could sit and wait for someone to fill out a contact sales form, a lead form. You can sit there for a long time and wait for these people to fill out these forms, but there are people who are taking actions and engaging with your content beyond those form submissions. And automation allows you to track those engagements across the internet, across your website, in your email marketing. So you can see maybe there's a person who has engaged with every single email that I've sent them and have been to our website many times. That person might be more ready to buy than someone who hasn't interacted with any of our content at all. And then after you track your sales engagements, you can use these signals to send qualified prospects to your sales team. So you can kind of qualify these people using these engagement parameters and flag these people to your sales team to say, hey, this person has had all these engagements. This person has has been to our website so many times. Let's prioritize following up with these people rather than making 250 cold calls to people who might not be in that engaged bucket. So taking this a step further with your target audience, the first thing to think about when you're identifying your ideal clients and you're targeting your potential buyers is thinking about the characteristics that these clients share. So like I said before, what location are they in? What company size are you selling to? What job titles are you selling into? What industries are these people in? And we can show you later how this kind of works in the platforms that we use for Sales Funnel, but just start thinking about the pieces that you would use to target your ideal clients and maybe find new clients that you might not have in your database right now, or to pull all the clients that you have in your database into a specific segment. When you're thinking about your ideal clients, also think about their pain points. It's really important to target your messaging to the things that they are having issues with rather than the things that you are doing. it resonates more with them if you're building your content around their pain points. It positions you better if you're thinking about their pain points. So it's always important when you're thinking about selling into both new people and people that are existing in your database is what are these people struggling with? And then how can you help solve for the things that they're struggling with? And a common misconception I've seen with staffing is a lot of staffing, when they're selling, they want to talk about what they do. We've done this, we can do this. Here's what we're good at. But you really have to think about, you have to put yourself in the prospect's shoes and think about if you were buying the service, what would resonate the most with you? If you are, if you have a really good NPS, but your client is struggling with candidate quality, how does your NPS really correlate to providing better candidates for the candidate quality issue that they're struggling with? So just thinking about if you're the buyer and someone was selling to you, what would resonate the most with you? And then I think the last point is to really think about, like I said, think about them and what they are experiencing, the things that they're seeing, the things that your potential clients are, what's keeping them up at night, not exactly what you're doing and how you feel you can best solve their problems. It's what their problems are and how your services correlate to that. The next step is really focused on content. So we've had a lot of clients who are interested in sales funnel who just want to send sales related messages. I just want it to be sales. I want it to be aggressive. I want it, straight and to the point. But we've seen with the people who are in this category, the 60% that are not quite ready to buy or don't know that they're ready to buy yet, content is the piece that gets them to that next stage. Sharing content that is just informational, educational, helps them kind of understand the landscape, helps them understand the things that you're seeing, the things that you're an expert at, the things in the industry, really helps position you as a leader in the industry, as opposed to someone who's just sending messages that are, hey, buy my service, I've got this, do you need this? Buy this for me. Content is really important at this stage. And then showing your expertise through education, educating these people, showing that you know what they're struggling with, their pain points, the industry right now, showing that if you are in a specific vertical, showing that you have expertise in that vertical is really powerful at this stage with this content.
Hey, Rachel, just if I can jump in for a second, I want to share a quick story. So this has happened to me many times throughout my career where I'll be talking to somebody, particularly maybe someone who works as a recruiter. And one of the recommendations we'll make is you really should show your clients how to recruit better. And I've always received a ton of pushback. Why would I show my clients how to recruit? That's my job. If I show them how to do it, they don't need me. And it's actually the opposite that happens. When you show people how to do things at the level of depth that you know how to do it, it proves to people you know what you're talking about. But even more importantly, it shows people it's hard to do it well, and they're not going to do it on their own. And maybe some small percentage will do it on their own, but most will step back and say, if it's really like this, I need help. And they will call you. And that education is really invaluable for proving your value and making people want to work with you. So give away your best secrets.
I would say with the educational content, you show them how to do something enough to where they know what the solution is, but they don't want to do it themselves, so they go with you to do it. Another thing that's really important, and this kind of goes with the content piece, is driving people to your website. They say that your website is your storefront, it's your brand, it's what people know about you. So take people there, drive people there through content, and then show people your expertise through the pages that you have on your website. The good thing about websites now is that there are a ton of ways to track the people that are visiting your websites. So the more people you send to your website, the more information you get on the way that they're interacting with your brand. And like David had mentioned earlier, doing 3 or 4 or 5 touch points doesn't really cut it anymore. It takes a lot of touch points to get in front of people. So you can't make 3 cold calls and expect someone to respond. You can't send 2 emails and expect someone to respond. And this is kind of where sales funnels fits in. It's because it helps you amplify the number of touch points that you're sending and it helps you get your name in front of these people more. They say, I think it takes 17 touch points anymore to convert just a warm lead. So thinking about how many touch points you're going to include, and those touch points don't necessarily all have to be phone calls. They don't all have to be emails. They can be a mix of emails, phone, and LinkedIn messages. It can be physical drop-offs. It can be direct mail. Increasing the amount of touch points that you have with these people increases your brand recognition for them. And then something that we always talk about is crafting an offer. And this offer doesn't have to be a monetary offer. It doesn't have to be 15% off your first service, or it doesn't have to be 50% off for this month. An offer is essentially just something that you are exchanging for an interaction with someone. So an offer can be a really good piece of content. We've used content a lot for this. An offer can be a guarantee with your services. Offers are more than just money. It's something that you are giving to the prospect in exchange for them reaching out to you.
So Rachel, one thing I want to jump in that one with, there's a book called Lean Marketing, and the author's name is Alan Dibb, and he talks about three different types of offers that compel people to take action. One is the content or educational information offer. The second is offering people a tool. So for those of you who've been in the staffing industry a long time, you may recall in the 80s and 90s, a very popular tool was to give people vacation planners as a way to help them figure out when they needed staffing. Well, every ATS now has the ability to track people, but there may be other tools people could use, salary comparison tools. I know wage and benefit tools. So that's the second. And the third type of offer is an experience. What can I give someone as an experience? Maybe some sort of free consultation. So they're having an experience of working with me in a way that's non-threatening to the buyer, but that gets them to see our value. So if you think about content, tools, and experiences, it may give you more ideas for things you can offer besides discounts.
And the last piece of creating this marketing funnel is making sure that it integrates with your existing sales process. So like I had mentioned earlier, these are not replacing your sales team. These are just enhancing your sales teams. Making sure that the touch points that you're sending are integrating at some point with the sales that your internal team is doing. Is your internal team making phone calls, right when they get a new contact? Let's send a follow-up email after that phone call to make sure that we're hitting this person at all angles. Do your sales team need notifications when someone receives an email via automation? Let's send a notification to your sales team once someone receives that email. Making sure that the touch points that you're sending via automation also work with the touch points that your people are doing physically, because we know that at the end of the day, it's about the relationship building, and we can't automate this whole process, but we want to make sure that we're freeing up your sales team's time to focus on those high value relationships while we're taking care of those touch points that are more repetitive, and that tracking and kind of making sure that people are ready to buy.
One of the things that I've seen you do with some clients, and I think this is pretty amazing, is setting up alerts. So when those people you're targeting are on your website, you get real-time notifications that somebody from the company you were targeting is now on your website to give you instant feedback. Hey, it's probably a good time to reach out.
Yep. We can also do that with like email opens. If we have a specific email that we're sending and someone opens that email, hey, call this person. They just received this email that was based on this topic. Make sure that you touch on these points when you're talking to them.
Just don't ever tell them I saw that you just read my email, because that doesn't work.
Yes. And then I think the tracking sales engagements and using these engagements to send these contacts to sales is a really important piece of the marketing funnel, because it helps bridge the gap between what you're doing in automation and what your sales team is doing. So like I had mentioned, track email opens and clicks, see what people are opening and clicking on your emails, seeing what people are interacting with the content that you're sending. You can pull reports that show this person, this one contact that I have has clicked on every single email I've sent in this series. This person might be more engaged than someone who hasn't interacted at all. Like we had mentioned earlier, track and retarget your website visitors. Software is so sophisticated now where you can see the companies that are visiting your your websites. And even in some platforms, you can see the specific people that are visiting your websites. Taking that insight and using that to send people more specific content, using that to send people directly to sales, and then using that to also retarget them. If someone's visiting the same page, if someone's visiting your hire talent page, retarget that people with content specific to hiring talent, or someone's visiting a specific blog topic a lot, or a lot of people are going to the specific page. Use that information to inform the rest of your sales process to know this is the type of content that people are interacting with, and this is the type of content that I need to send more often. And then, like with the email opens and clicks, monitor repeat actions, people that are constantly going to the website, people that over the past week have been to the website 5 times, people that have opened every email, people that have clicked on 3 consecutive emails. Knowing this really helps give you insight on the people that are closest to that buying stage. And then, like I'd mentioned with the website, recognize themes. Are people interacting with the same type of content? I worked with a client recently that when we looked at the clicks on their emails and the interactions on their emails, we noticed that people were really engaged with the content topics focused on AI. So that helped us kind of guide our strategy moving forward to focus more on AI, because we knew that this was a theme that people were interacting with. And then when you're automating your marketing funnel, you can use automation to track those who are ready to buy and nurture those who aren't. This is kind of that piece where people take 2 segments. People are either ready to talk to sales or they need to be nurtured more. Lead scoring is something that's great within automation platforms because it helps you create scores based on specific types of actions people are taking. So a website visit could be worth 2 points, whereas a form fill could be worth 10 points. And these points accumulate to a point where you can say someone who has 50 points accumulated over all the engagements that they have is someone that we think is ready to buy. Let's send those people to our sales team. And on that end, you can also do negative lead scoring, where if someone unsubscribes from an email, if someone hasn't been to the website in 6 months, you can take points off of their score so you can have better visibility onto who is most engaged and who is not. And then tracking website visits and page visits. Automation allows you to see, you can develop automation branches based off of this. So I've created campaigns where we send an email, and if someone who received the email visits this specific page on the website, we send them to a different email sequence that's just focused on the content on the website. It helps you get a sense of, it helps you create better segmented content, but also create better experiences for the people you're interacting with in your sales funnels. And then, like I mentioned earlier, check trends in email engagement. Are there emails that are getting a lot of engagements? What topics are those emails based on? Are there emails that are not getting a lot of engagements? Why are people not engaging with these emails? Is it the subject line? Is it the content in the email? You can use automation to track these trends and inform your email and marketing and content strategy moving forward. And then you can kind of tie it all together by using sales notifications for your sales team. So if someone has reached a certain lead score, if someone has reached a certain engagement threshold, you can flag them and send those directly to your sales team. You can also send follow-up reminders to your sales team with automation. If it's been so many days since someone's interacted with a piece of content, you can send something to your sales team. It really helps your sales team be ingrained with the marketing process because they know what's happening and they're receiving those contacts who are closest to the buying process.
Time for show and tell.
I'm going to take over David.
And I will stop my screen sharing because we're going to switch over to a live demo. There we go.
So I am in the platform Apollo right now. This is what we use for sales funnel. It's the platform, you can do this in several different platforms, but I think Apollo is really good for this because it allows you to create your targeting lists and also engage with them in the same platform. So you don't have contacts moving from, ZoomInfo to your ATS to an email engagement platform. It's all staying within Apollo. And the idea is that you're keeping Apollo as the place where all of your prospects live. And then once someone reaches that certain engagement, whether that be a lead score, whether that be certain engagement metrics, then they're moved to your ATS or your CRM where your salespeople can follow up with them more often. So you're not clogging up your ATS with data that, is this person even real? Is this person ready to buy? Is this person even in my target market? You're keeping everything in a platform where all your prospects are, and then you have all of your sales contacts in a different platform. So kind of talking through the steps of building sales funnels, this is the first step where we talked about identifying ideal clients and using characteristics to target them. I created this dummy. I'm a staffing company in mechanical engineering who my sweet spot is between 200 and 2,000 employees. The company that I want to work with, the sweet spot is between 200 and 2,000 employees, located in the Carolinas, but I can do work around in similar states. And I'm targeting people in the human resources function. So I use those targeting parameters to create this list of 674 people that I can then use for my outreach. The important piece here is knowing the characteristics of your target audience so you can build these lists better. Because if I don't use any targeting at all, my database is probably going to be over 1 million people, say over 6 million people. So out of 6 million people, how can I narrow that down to the amount of people that would be more likely, and that's just in the states that I'm working in. How can I narrow that down to the people that would be more likely to buy my services? And then how can I use that targeting to tailor my messaging to these people? So the next step of that is kind of building out your automations. And this is just a dummy automation that I have created in Apollo that shows the touch points that you can create and how those touch points all work together. So I've added all these people to my sequence. They're in my automation plan. They're ready to go. The first thing that happens is they receive an automated email from me. I can see all of the metrics here and I can trigger further off of these metrics. But if someone doesn't interact with anything, they don't reach out to the sales team, they don't respond to the email, I can follow up with a task to my salesperson that says, call this person. If they go through that step, then the 3 days after that, I can automate a LinkedIn connection request. So this kind of shows the different types of touch points and how they all work together. We're hitting them via email, we're hitting them via phone, we're hitting them via LinkedIn. So we're not just staying in one place, we're making sure that we engage with these people where the different places that they're at. And then the content piece, the plan with our emails is to direct people to our website and direct people to a piece of content. Typically, that content is going to be high value content that we're using as that educational content offer. We want to exchange the piece of content for this person's email address. So we have this checklist, this hiring checklist that we're sharing with people. Our emails focused on, is your staffing vendor meeting your current needs right now? We're sending them to this checklist. Checklist has all this value in it. They're ready to download. We're able to create landing pages, and this is just a dummy landing page right now, but we're able to create landing pages that highlights, here are the benefits of this checklist. Here's what you're going to get from this checklist. Here are some things about our company. Here's some things that we can offer you, and fill out your information to receive this checklist. The concept here is that we really want to show that our clients know what they're doing, that they're experienced in their space. And then that piece of education kind of positions them as the leader, positions them as someone who, these are the things that we have as part of our process. This is our checklist for hiring. We want to make sure that you're getting that from your current staffing vendor. And if you're not, you can contact us. Or if you're not, here's some ways that we can help fix that. An example of how we did this for one of our clients, we created this looking beyond the bill rate checklist that takes a look at, here's your current staffing vendor. Are they doing these things in this checklist? How are they choosing candidates? What is their recruitment process? How are they following up with talent? How are they interviewing talent? And it helped this client position themselves as an expert in this space and people were able to download this checklist and have this tangible thing when they're evaluating staffing vendors. It may not be Vector Technical, it could be a different staffing vendor, but when they're evaluating staffing vendors, they could see Vector Technical is the expert in this. They know what they're doing. This is the only staffing vendor that makes sense for me. So that's kind of an end-to-end example of what sales funnels look like, from using your targeting to develop your lists, to creating your outreach, to integrating with your sales process, to having that educational content that you can share with people to show your expertise.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. I'm going to share my screen again. So we did have a couple of questions come in, and they were related to integration. So I can summarize them all so far. One was, does this all integrate with Bullhorn? Second one was, does this all integrate with Aviante Bold? Third one was, does this all integrate with HubSpot? So the answer on the first two is no and no. The answer on the third is yes. So the Apollo software we were looking at does directly integrate with HubSpot. You probably could use a tool like Zapier to integrate with Bullhorn or Aviante Bold. However, Rachel mentioned earlier at the beginning of this, it's really nice in a tool like Apollo to keep cold prospects that you do not want to clutter up your ATS. So you could be using Apollo to identify people to target, building the automation sequences and the marketing funnel to get response. And then, like the example she showed of Vector Technical, when you've got a landing page that you're using as a conversion page, well, you can have that email your salesperson, or in the case of Bullhorn, not Aviante Bold, in the case of Bullhorn, that actually could be integrated directly with Bullhorn from the web page. We have the ability to do that. But the volume of responses you're going to get from a campaign is not going to be so overwhelming that you need to worry about automating the data entry, because there's not that much data to move. It's who's the contact that responded. Now it's a lead for the salesperson, and it's that one lead at a time that would be transferred back into the ATS. Now, let's say you did have a lot of prospects in your ATS and you said, I'd like to use those as the foundation for a campaign. Couple of options there, and Rachel, feel free to build on this. If you're using Bullhorn and you have Bullhorn automation, you could build the sequences there. If you're using Sense, you could build the sequences in Sense. Or you can do what we do sometimes, which is to export your data, bring it into Apollo, let Apollo clean it up to make sure it's up to date, and then use Apollo to send the sequences, and people who respond go back into your ATS. You can also export all the cleaned up data and put it back into your ATS if you want your email addresses cleaned. Anything I missed there?
No, just hitting on the same point that automation can be done in several different platforms. I have clients doing automation in Bullhorn Automation, in Sense, in HubSpot, in ActiveCampaign. You can build the sales funnel sequences in whatever platform you have. The benefit of using a tool like Apollo, like I said, you can keep the targeting and the engagement in one place. And then when that engaged sales lead comes in, then you move it to whatever platform you're using. So you can kind of have your prospecting tool and then your CRM tool as two different tools, but you can do sales funnel automation essentially in any platform that you have that does automation.
And while we were talking, another question came in about TempWorks, and we will add a third to the no category. Actually, none of the staffing ATSs are direct integrations with Apollo. I was actually looking at their website while we were talking. The only ones are marketing automation platforms, a HubSpot being an automation platform. But again, you can take the data out, put it into Apollo to clean it up. You can run the sequences outside of your ATS and only bring back people who you have moved from the middle, the nurture part of the sales funnel, up to the top of ready for your sales team. So when they get to the blue and the red sections, yeah, they're going back into your ATS. Or if you use a CRM outside of your ATS, they're going into that CRM. If you don't have a CRM, you could actually get licenses for salespeople to use Apollo as a CRM, because you can do the automations and you could track your prospects there. All right, and there may be more questions coming in but we're going to go to Q&A, but as long as we're getting them, I want to keep talking about it. So we did have a question. For the process of moving prospects out of the CRM ATS, is it recommended to pull back out or keep them in the ATS CRM for all time? Got a thought on that, Rachel?
Yeah, I think if you're not doing automations through your ATS or CRM, and you want to keep all of your automations in a platform like Apollo, I don't think there's a problem with keeping that contact in your ATS or CRM. Once that contact reaches that certain sales ready stage in Apollo, then that information would just be added to that existing contact in the ATS or CRM in whatever you're using. So they'd pull that information from Apollo. This person, you know, maybe they have an updated email address. Here's what they interacted with. Here's a conversation that we had with them. That information would just go in the existing record in your ATS.
Good. And if there are more questions that are coming in or you have, please feel free to reach out. We're actually coming up to the Q&A section. I actually just have one last thing for you. Earlier, we talked about, when you're doing a process like this, I mentioned the recruiter example, give away your best secrets. Well, if you're looking to kickstart your sales, we talked about Apollo. What goes into sales funnel automation? Well, when we do it, you'd have to do prospect list building. An Apollo license, if you're using it, allows you to target 1,000 leads a month that you can get out of Apollo. If you're uploading your own data, you can actually do a much bigger list, but Apollo lets you download contact information for 1,000 prospects. For most people listening in, that's way more than a salesperson could handle in a month. That's probably what they would handle in 3 months or a year, but you can have a big list that you're targeting. You then need to think about creating a direct marketing campaign, integrating the steps. How are we going to create sequences of outreach that integrate with our sales process? And we can use, as Rachel mentioned earlier, multiple channels. How can we use and where can we use email? How and where should we use LinkedIn? When should we tell someone to pick up the phone? That's what goes into a sequence. And that's you figure out the cadence I want to use. And we're going to want to have at least 12 to as many as 16. You mentioned them, Rachel, 17 steps, but it takes a lot of touches to get someone's attention. So we have to lay out all of those touches so it's a very defined process. We can show the sales team, this is what we do. This is when we do it. We're going to get the names of people to go after. We're going to target them. And when they're ready, when we've got them into the blue phase, when they want to talk to you, this is where you're going to pick up the phone. You're going to want to think about creating some kind of signature content and a landing page on your website, something that has value to the audience, content, a tool, an offer for an experience. But you're going to want to create something that you can offer your audience that they're going to find very valuable. It's probably not about staffing. It's probably addresses the biggest pain points your target audience has. And in the process of writing that signature content, you will talk about that pain point and ways to solve that pain point. And of course, your services will be amongst the list of things people should do to solve that problem. The landing page is a web page, just like the one that Rachel showed for Vector Technical, where you're offering that one piece of signature content, and there's really nothing else people do on that page except take you up on your offer. And then you look at how you automate the steps. This is where you go into a software tool like Apollo, like HubSpot, like Bullhorn Automation or Sense, and you build out all of the steps. The nice thing about Apollo is it allows you to use email and LinkedIn and trigger tasks for salespeople all from one platform. HubSpot can do that as well. With Sense and Bullhorn, you can also do texting, although you should not do texting with cold outreach. I know people are doing that more in sales. That's a big no-no, especially to do it with automated campaigns. Can get you in a lot of trouble because unsolicited text messages are prohibited. But with Apollo, you can do all the other outreach. And then you need to manage this every month, right? So you talked about looking at the data. You need to see what's working, what's not working, what steps are creating engagement, and what is everybody missing, and you need to update and adjust. I would love to tell you there's one magic formula that we have that works 100% of the time with every staffing company everywhere in the United States, regardless of your specialty. Sorry, I don't have that. I can't give away that secret. But you can learn as you put this stuff out there and you start sending it out to 1,000 people, what gets a response and what doesn't. How do we adjust our messaging? How do we test different wording so that we can improve the response? Now, if you'll pardon the sales pitch that's in here, if you want to outsource all of that, yeah, we do that. That's actually a new service that Rachel's in charge of. And with the Apollo software, it's $1,795 a month. So if you'd like to know more about it, you can just reach out to us. Now, there are a couple of additional questions that have come in. So
David, I
question,
can answer these
yeah,
questions.
go ahead.
The first one, how do we track who is visiting our website? So the Apollo platform and some other platforms, I know ZoomInfo has a tool that can do this, and HubSpot can do this for specific contacts. It's a script that goes on your website. So script provided by the tool that you're using that just goes in the code of your website. Then you're able to see specific companies that are visiting your website. You're not always able to get it down to specific contacts. You can see company names of people that are visiting your website. Haley also has a lead tracking product that does this. And then in certain cases, like Bullhorn Automation can do this or HubSpot can do this. If a contact is in your database and has interacted with your marketing materials and then goes to your website, you can see that specific contact, what pages they're visiting, what time they visited your website, and who's visiting your website.
One of the other things that you can do in Apollo that's kind of cool is you could take a company that's visiting your website and then have personas built of who your ideal prospects are within any target organization. And what Apollo can do is say, okay, ABC Manufacturing was just on our website. At ABC Manufacturing or at any manufacturing company, our target persona is the COO and the head of HR and the head of the accounting department. Pick whoever your personas are. Once you train Apollo on your personas, it could know that ABC Manufacturing was there. Apollo will see, hey, do I know the people in those personas at that company? And if so, we can trigger an automation to those specific people. Now, we don't know which of them, if any of those individuals were just on the website, but we're targeting the most likely buyers after that company has been on your website. So kind of a really cool automation. It's actually part of what we do when we set up the sales automation funnels, is to look at those website visitors and how do we trigger follow-ups to them. And then we had a question, can we get a copy of your checklist? So Jane, if you're looking at the checklist that we were just looking at on Vector Technical, Rachel, do you mind throwing the link to that page in the chat?
Yes.
And then you can take a look at the one that they're using in their marketing, and they did give us permission to share during today's webinar.
And our slides for this, the checklist for the sales funnel, will be available in the follow-up after this.
All right. Well, if we will stick around if there are additional questions, but while we're wrapping things up, just got two last things for you, two freebies. So if you have questions, please use the Q&A. Let us know. We'll be happy to keep answering them. And if you don't have questions, number one, I mentioned our weekly newsletter. It comes out every Saturday morning, 9 o'clock Eastern. We share, I would say usually it's one idea a week, but a lot of the times they're a little bit longer than that with more than one idea. We're actually right now in the middle of a 7-part series on how to sell in a down market. You can use the QR code there. You can go to haleymarketing.com/smartideasweekly to subscribe, and you will get that email every Saturday morning with really good practical advice on things you can do to drive sales, marketing, and recruiting for your business. And just to repeat where we started, for those who weren't logged on early, at our next Lunch with Haley event, we're actually not doing just a Lunch with Haley in September. We're doing our Smart Ideas Summit. This is a full-day virtual event, and it's absolutely free to attend. This is an awesome conference. We have 7 hours of content, 14 talks, a new talk every half hour, with a brief break from noon to 1 p.m. Eastern, so our speakers and our team can grab lunch. Tons of ideas. We have an amazing list of presenters this year, including the CEO of Aviante, the head of the economic research for the American Staffing Association, an amazing panel on mergers and acquisitions. And for the first time, we are doing a panel of staffing company owners and another panel of recruiting firm owners. And then we're going to be interspersing talks from our subject matter experts on all things related to marketing and how it can help in your staffing and recruiting business. So use the QR code, join us, ask your team to sign up. We are expecting 1,000 companies in the industry. We're actually already over 600 with 5 weeks to go. So get signed up. Don't miss your opportunity to join in. Oh, and because we know not everybody can listen in for 7 hours in a row, those who sign up get first access to all of the recordings of the presentations. I see a few things in chat. Okay. Just some thank yous. Oh, let's stop the share there. So if there are any additional questions, we'll hang out. Otherwise, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to join us for today's Lunch with Haley webinar. And Rachel, thank you so much for sharing all the great information on sales funnel automation.
Works.